What's going on, Sergio? Thanks for jumping on the stream. You are the first person, man. Nice and early. Nice and early indeed. How's it going, man? You doing alright? Hope you're well. What's up, Daniel? How's it going, man? Sean, Craig? Yeah, man, hope you guys are well. Hope your weekend was good, and hope the start of your week was good as well. First person, that guy smells like beef. I'm number 4. How's it going, number 4? Hope you've had a good start to your week, my friend. Hope you're doing alright. Can't afford JL Audio. Hello from Vegas. How is it over there, my man? How's it in Vegas right now? Thanks for jumping on the stream from such a far away place. Brandon, thanks for jumping on. How's it going, my man? So, to start off this evening, I'm going to be taking a quick look at this Taramps TS 2000x4. So this is a pretty cool amplifier. It's a 4-channel, massively powerful 4-channel Class D. And this is the kind of thing that will suit the guys running a bunch of PA style drivers in a door, for example. It's hot. Hello from Hawaii. How's it going, my man? Hello from Rochester. There. Oh, New York. I was going to say, well, Rochester. That's a little bit closer to home, but no. That's the New York Rochester, not the UK Rochester. That's still pretty far away. Hello from Nairobi. Nice. How's it going, Eric? I don't actually know where that is. Where is that? There's a match on vacation at the moment. Nice. Whereabouts are you guys at? Oh sheesh. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Holy shit. Okay. Wait, what? Okay. Been a while, Annabelle. Yeah, been a little while. Been away from home. Came back recently, so I'll jump on the streams again now. I was looking at comments from 9 years ago. You made a comment about my gear shifter volume knob. Man, I don't even remember that. That's pretty funny. Yeah, it's been around a long time, isn't it? Alright guys, yeah, how's it going? Thanks everyone for jumping on the stream. If you're here, got about 40 viewers just now. Really nice to see all of you, really nice to hang out on this Monday evening. I'm on the west coast of Canada in the province of British Columbia with my daughter. Nice, man. I've never been to Canada. I would love to go. It looks beautiful. Lots of sightseeing to do there, I imagine. Lots and lots of cool things to do in Canada. Greetings from Norway. How's it going in Norway? How's it going? How's it going? Another country I've never been to. Wait, no. Have I been to Norway? Yeah, I've been to... wait, isn't Oslo? Oslo's in Norway, isn't it? I've been to Oslo. So guys, just going to take a quick look at what we're looking at this evening. So just the first amp on the bench this evening is going to be this little Taramps TS 2000x4. So I don't actually know what this is rated at. It says 2000x4. So oh, here we go. 2000 watts RMS, 2 ohms. So I suspect this isn't going to be 2000 watts times 4 because that would be absolutely ludicrous. from an amplifier this size. So this is going to be 2000 watts RMS split between 4 channels. So what this is going to be 500 watts RMS times 4 into 2 ohms, or 2 times 1000 watts RMS into 2 ohms, which still is pretty amazing from an amplifier this size. Like, wow, 4 times 500 watts RMS is pretty. That's something, isn't it? Like, you know, going back away, looking at old amplifiers and, you know, how much power versus size there was. So in this amplifier, there are some visual signs of damage already. Okay, I'm going to take you over the visual signs of damage here. I'm just going to kind of go over the basic circuit. We've got a standard push-pull transformer power supply over here. This over here is probably going to be our driver. Yeah, I think that's our MOSFET driver for the power supply FETs. Here's the power supply FETs, power supply transformer. Scoots all the way over here to our rectifiers. Then we've got our rail caps in the middle. Then we've got our 4 channels. We've got inductor per channel, of course. And then each channel has only 2 MOSFETs. That's right. 500 watts RMS from just 2 MOSFETs. One high side, one low side. Drive circuit is an IRS 2092S. Pretty standard stuff. The 2092 is used everywhere from car audio to subwoofer plate amplifiers, home audio, hi-fi receivers, home cinema receivers, even pro audio amplifiers are using the 2092 as a driver for the MOSFETs. So yeah, that's pretty standard stuff. Then we've got our preamplifier circuit over here with all the filters, all the op amps doing all the kind of gain and filters, high pass, low pass filter, etc. In the middle here we've got some auxiliary voltage generation stuff by the looks of it. Got a couple of transistors there. Got a Zener diode, by the looks of it, maybe D7, is that, maybe that's a Zener diode. Yeah, a couple of Zeners maybe. Yeah, a couple of Zener diodes here, I reckon, and that's going to be latching a reference voltage, which is then going to be these 2 transistors are going to be generating that auxiliary voltage plus minus 15 volts, something like that. A couple of resistors here, probably in series with that supplied voltage, just to buffer it a bit. And then we've got another couple of diodes over here as well. Interesting to know what they're for. We've got another couple of big resistors, different value here. I wonder whether this is also going to be for some kind of supply voltage, perhaps, maybe 12 volts ref negative rail for the 2092 supply. Like, this is the first time I'm looking at this amplifier. So in terms of what visual damage we've got, I don't know if you noticed anything yet, but there's a couple of things I can see. So just over here, and this is by the filter network for one of these channels. We've got a surface mount resistor here, which has absolutely burned itself to a crisp. So this is going to be just one channel. This little circuit here represents just one channel of this amplifier. Yeah, we've got this very, very crispy surface mount resistor. That is R168, I think. And also we have a matching toasted resistor over here on this other channel, which is interesting. So it's not just the one channel that appears to have this burn resistor. There's the same on another channel as well. Let's get our tweezers, just have a look. Yep, that one's dead as well. It's the same resistor location. So same resistor on both channels is toast. We're not quite sure what that resistor is doing yet, but I imagine it probably forms part of the filter network, looking at its location. Let's take a look at that resistor location on the other channels over the other side of the board here. Oh yeah, it looks like actually this might be burned. Yeah, so all 4 of them are burned. This one here as well over here, although not quite as badly, it seems. There's a 4701, so that's a 4700 ohm resistor, looks like, unless there's another surface mount resistor hiding under there somewhere. Under this stuff, it might be actually. There might be another surface mount hiding under this stuff, because there's some burn marks here, but it's not the 4701. Is it going to be another resistor hiding under all of this adhesive? Probably, because on the 4th channel we also have this resistor, which is the same one again, toast. Now, because we've got all 4 channels here with these resistors toasted, it's quite tricky to see what value the resistors are, because they're all dead, they're all toast. However, this last one here does have very, very slight remains of the marking on the resistor, and I think we can just about make out if the camera, I don't think the camera will focus in that close, but we can just about make out that this resistor says 10R0. So this is a large 10 ohm resistor, large surface mount 10 ohm resistor, and it's burned on all 4 channels. So whatever's happened here has affected all 4 channels simultaneously. So it's unlikely to be a case of user error. It might be, but it's unlikely to be a case of user error. You would usually see issues with just the 1 channel if that was the case. Now if we take a look over here at the speaker terminals, we have a bunch of diodes here, and at least one of these diodes, probably more than one, but at least one of these diodes is visibly blown to pieces. Now, okay, what's these diodes for? What is the purpose of these diodes? It's possible that this amplifier uses a single positive rail voltage, okay, like a single positive rail. No, I take that back. By these markings, looks like we have B plus B minus, which is going to be plus minus rail. So scratch that. I was going to suggest that these diodes were going to be for applying half rail to the speaker terminals, but that doesn't seem to be the case, as we have plus minus rail voltage by the looks of it on the markings. So what is the purpose of these diodes then? They seem to sit between the active speaker terminals, the actual ones with the sine wave on them, you can see there. And then on the other side of these diodes, what do we have? We have this trace, which goes off along to this trace, which seems to be, is that one of the rails, perhaps? Or is that ground? Possibly one of the rails. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of that would be, but if this diode has failed and sent rail voltage to the speaker terminal, then that's not going to be a good day, is it, for any of the components on this board? Alright, so let's start then by just removing some of the obviously burned components. So we haven't even powered this up, we haven't even touched our multimeter on here yet. I just want to go ahead and remove the parts that are clearly visibly damaged, and we'll go from there. It looks a good main board, says Minnesota Boston. Yeah, absolutely. Taramps actually make fantastic amplifiers, regardless of what you hear about Taramps online and on the forums and stuff. They make fantastic pieces of equipment. The circuits are always fantastically well built, nice thick PCBs, big traces, really good attention to build quality, assembly quality is really good, the actual circuit designs themselves are pretty good, they're not bad, and they are not clones, which is something that I respect. You've got all these amplifiers coming out of generic build houses in China that are just copy pasted other designs from other people or old circuits from 20 years ago. You got these guys over in Brazil that are actually engineering, they're actually providing the user with a bespoke circuit that is just theirs. They've actually put time and effort and thought into, rather than just kind of copying some old schematic and changing a few bits here and there, or copying someone else's design and getting it a bit wrong, like you'll find in a lot of the designs coming out of China. So yeah, I do have a lot of respect for Taramps, and I do think their stuff is fantastic. So wow, are you ever putting time into the A6000 GTI again? Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about it just today actually. It's just behind me here. Actually, I don't know if you can. Nah, you can't see it. It's just underneath this orange case thing here. Can you see it on this camera? No, it's off camera. But it's literally just behind me, the A6000 GTI. And yeah, I do need to pull that on the bench and take a look at that. Now that I'm a bit more experienced as well, especially in the troubleshooting department, after many amps like the Rockford, which have broadened my troubleshooting abilities quite considerably. So I think we'll be looking at the A6000 GTI again pretty soon. Bro just rocked up with a juice and gin. Nice one, man. Have a sip for me. Have one on me. Alright, so that diode came off fantastically easily. I'm going to go ahead and check the continuity across some of the other ones over here, just to see whether it was just that one that got taken out, or whether there's a whole bunch of these that are toast. I'll adjust my multimeter cam a little bit. So this one's toast. Okay, so it seems to just be these two, and this is for channel 3. So channel 3 seems to be the culprit. Now I don't know whether we don't know yet whether these diodes failed as a result of whatever happened to the rest of the circuit, or whether these diodes failed first and caused a massive catastrophe of failures further down the circuit. So I'll take them off the board first. The marking on these diodes is U2D. So I think these are fast recovery switching diodes, perhaps, if I remember rightly. And just while we're here, let's clean off the board a little bit here from the soot of this failure, and put some fresh solder on there, ready for later. Okay, cool. Some flux on there as well, as you can see, ready for later. Right, now let's go ahead and remove these resistors that are clearly toasted. So these, fortunately, we're very lucky that this one here retained the marking, because we could guess the way that these have failed. We know that they're a low value resistor. You can tell by the way that resistors burn what their value is. So if you've got a resistor that is high resistance, when it fails, it will typically fail kind of quickly, and it won't burn. It won't like sit there and sizzle and burn up like these low resistance ones do, simply because it doesn't have a low enough resistance to really draw a bunch of current across it. So when it fails, it just kind of goes open, and that's it, game over. But lower value resistors, they will draw more current across them, obviously, as they're failing, or if you've got a problem that is sending too much voltage across them, then yeah, they will fail more drastically, more dramatically. Oh, fucking hell. I was obviously resting my hot air gun on that capacitor here. It's fine, it's just the casing of the cap, but it's annoying. It's clumsy, I do apologise. I'm not having the best day today, guys, if I'm totally honest. So the resistor for this channel that has probably failed, because they all have in all 4 of these channels, seems to be hiding under some of this adhesive here. So I'm just going to cut some of this away, and hopefully we will reveal the surface mount resistor that has failed, because there are some burn marks around here, but we can't see where they've originated from just yet. Someone said, Craig said, are you able to mirror flip the main front camera out of respect for the wonderful Bearvidge logo behind you? Yes and no. Like, yeah, that is annoying, I guess, isn't it, that the Bearvidge logo is flipped? But the problem is, if I flip the camera like this, then it doesn't look like I'm reading live chat anymore, because live chat's now over there. So I could perhaps do this and then put live chat over there, and then put the Bearvidge logo over the, oh shit, OBS is so annoying with the placement of this stuff. Put that over there, grab that, put that over there. How's that? Is that a bit better? Now you've got the nice beautiful Bearvidge logo plaque the correct way round behind me. You've got live chat over here. Make live chat a little bit bigger. That's a bit better, isn't it? It's like for you regular viewers, it's gonna confuse the heck out of you. You're gonna be like, wait, why? This does. It's gonna be like, wait, this looks different, but why? Why does it look different? Like, it's one of those things where something changes. It looks the same, but it also looks different. You can't figure out what it is that's changed. So I guess that looks a bit better now. Yeah, I always have it. I always try and have it so that the way that my face is looking at either live chat or, like, for example, when we've got here, you see how the camera is here. I'm looking at the board. I'm looking at the video. If that makes sense. I'm looking at what you're seeing. Same for this one. I'm looking at. See how I'm looking at live chat there. I always try and angle it so that I'm looking at the thing that is of interest on the screen. Same with this one. See how I'm looking at the scope. The scope isn't actually turned on right now, so you've just got a dusty screen. But yeah, anyway, move myself over a little bit, I think. Keep picking away at this adhesive to try and get to this resistor that's definitely hiding under here somewhere. The world's biggest trending. How's it going, man? Thanks for jumping on. Jason's like, that doesn't look right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Hopefully it looks right now, though, now that I've put the stuff on the other side. Is that an AB amplifier? No, so this is a Class D amplifier. It's 4 times 500 watts RMS into 2 ohms, or 2 times 1000 watts RMS into 4 ohms. So it's a pretty beefy Class D multi-channel. Really cool little thing, this. There we go. Yeah, we're starting to see the resistor under there now that's hiding the burned one. There it is. This is giving me flashbacks to that Rockford Fosgate 4 channel that I worked on a few weeks ago, and I was having to do the same thing with the adhesive here, and I didn't realise that there were some what was it? There were some capacitors. That's right, there were some capacitors that were like embedded in the adhesive, and I was just taking my pliers and yanking the adhesive, and I literally ripped the capacitors straight off the board. Traces came with it. It was not a good day. Giving me flashbacks to that. Love your work. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you saying that. That's really cool. Just kind of doing what I do and sharing it with you guys who seem to enjoy it somewhat. Okay, there we go. So this one has actually burned quite badly. I assume because the adhesive here was acting like a kind of thermal insulation, so it got really hot under here with where this resistor was. So the traces are actually quite weak. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's burned right through the PCB there. It's actually made a small burn on this 4700 ohm resistor as well. But I suspect that it won't have affected its resistance. It's just kind of like visually burned it a little bit. Should be fine. So let's get some isopropyl alcohol and just kind of try and clean this up a little bit visually, just to see what's going on a bit easier. My Conda, what's up, man? Class AB isn't fun at all. Still working on in Memphis. Yeah, Class AB is a different. You have to kind of approach it with a different mentality and a different set of troubleshooting skills to Class D. I learnt amplifier repair on Class D. My sort of first experiences with troubleshooting a circuit was with a Brazilian Class D bander. So most of my troubleshooting abilities come with the kind of Class D mindset so I'm not a huge fan of working with Class AB. But I'm getting better at it. Did the goop cause a thermal failure? I don't think so. I don't know exactly what order things failed in this board yet, because we haven't kind of got that far yet, but I think that probably what happened is these two diodes over here, which I've now removed by the speaker terminals, I reckon they failed, they shorted, and it caused some butterfly catastrophe effect on all 4 of these channels. We have dead resistors on all 4 of these channels. I don't quite know what these 10 ohm resistors are doing yet, because we haven't got that far into the circuit yet. We're just pulling off all of the obviously visually burned things at the minute. Yeah, we'll find out what this 10 ohm resistor is doing shortly, I'm sure. What do you reckon, guys? We haven't actually checked it. Do you reckon this thing has got dead MOSFETs or not? Do you reckon that this is like, do you reckon the FETs have failed? Or do you reckon this is just kind of like a weird filter network failure, and that all the FETs are fine? This adhesive is over here as well on this one. See if we can get that off of there as well. That Rockford 4 channel, probably your toughest fight so far. Steve, yeah, maybe. It's definitely up there. But there are some amplifiers that have beaten me that I have here that are just on the kind of back burner that I haven't been able to repair. So I wouldn't say it's the worst, because I do have some that, yeah, that I can't seem to get to the bottom of. But I would say that with the Rockford 4 channel in the recent video, I spent a lot more time with it than I have some of the other ones that I have given up on. I was very persistent with that one. So if I gave the same amount of effort and time to some of these other ones that I've got that I haven't been able to figure out, then I probably saw them. But and also a lot of the ones that I haven't been able to repair, they're from quite a while ago, even maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. So my skills have improved drastically in that time. So if I revisited some of the ones that I couldn't repair before now, I may be able to sort them relatively quickly. So we shall see. Starting with the JBL A6000 GTI, that's going to be one of the ones I think that I revisit soon with a slightly improved skill set. Okay, so that is all of the visibly burned components off the board now. What we want to check for now is whether we have any dead MOSFETs. So let's see whether the actual amplifier stage of these channels are okay. So let's check the one up here. That's not looking promising. I've got 172 there on diode mode, and that's a bit low. So I suspect this MOSFET itself is probably fine. Yeah, 182 one way, 172 the other way around. That's not right at all. We would be expecting values in the region of the 400 to 600 range. So yeah, that's not looking too good. So let's check the one next to it. 1349 one way round. Okay, that's more like what we're expecting to see. So this MOSFET's fine, this one here. How about this one? Let's go between gate and drain. 182. So we seem to have, and then we have a short between gate and source. So that FET's probably dead. Let's check this next channel along here. Yeah, that's what we're expecting to see. That seems fine. Yeah, that's all good. Let's check these ones down here. Yep, that one's fine. So I think then that we appear to just have one channel with failed MOSFETs and possibly a failed drive circuit. So this channel up here, this top left channel. Now, is this top left channel, is this the one that has the failed diodes on this by the speaker terminals? I suspect it probably is. That's channel 3. So let's go ahead and probe channel 3 speaker terminal, and let's go and see whether that's actually connected to the MOSFETs over here. Yep, there we go. So we don't quite know which order this happened in. Either these diodes failed, which created a short circuit environment, which then killed the FETs on this channel, or something on this channel failed and sent huge amounts of DC or nonsense over to the speaker terminals, which inadvertently killed these diodes, and then whatever else happened. I'm still a bit confused why the 10 ohm resistor for every one of these channels is dead, but that might be something to do with the supply voltage for the drivers, so we'll get there in a minute. Next thing to do then is we're just going to go ahead and remove this clamp, MOSFET clamp here for this channel. Find the right size bit here. Does the power supply work? I would imagine so, because when power supply sections fail, they fail very dramatically, and you'll have visible signs of failure because the 12 volts in ground just burns on the MOSFET. So the power supply, I imagine, is absolutely fine. We'll find out momentarily, but judging from my experience of these, the power supply section is generally fine, especially with these amps and these new amplifiers, because the protection circuits are really fast, so the power supply section doesn't get enough time to be overloaded by whatever's happened. So yeah, generally the power supplies survive on these. Okay, so it was this one, wasn't it, that was failed. So let's go ahead and cut that out the circuit. So what are these MOSFETs exactly? Amps are very kind. They don't mask off any component values, so we can read exactly what part this is. Ah, interesting. This is a less common part, actually. I happen to have some spares of these, though, I believe. This is a part that are used by a lot of Brazilian amplifiers, actually. Banda use these FETs as well in some of their 4-channel Class Ds. It's an IRFB 5620, I think that is. Yeah, IRFB 5620. I think this is like an 80 or 100 volt MOSFET. We're pretty high current, so okay, cool. That one's toast. Now that we've removed the MOSFET from the circuit, let's just see what the resistances are across the now empty pads. Now that's a bit more like what I expect to see. So we're now reading the drive circuit, going between gate and source there. So this 597 is, we're actually reading this IRS2092S chip. We're reading the value across that, and that seems to be correct. That's what I would expect to see. And then when we flip the probes the other way around, we get a nice high value. So I suspect that the drive IC is probably fine. Now this high side MOSFET next to it, MOSFET next to it, we're going to go ahead and replace that one as well, because we want the two MOSFETs that we fit to be matched, batch matched, so that they work nicely together. So we should just be able to flood the remaining these legs for this MOSFET. There's not much thermal mass around here, so we should just be able to flood the legs of this remaining MOSFET, and it will just pull out the board straight away. So let's see what happens with that. Let's take some little pliers here. I'm going to give you the old hat cam. The key is being patient with this. There we go. Pull straight out. Very quick and easy. Let's get rid of the legs of this one. One, two, three. Let's suck the holes. Suck them holes. Helps if I'm on target with my sucker, doesn't it? One, two, three. One, to, last but not least, this is the high thermal mass trace. This last one, it's kind of like, it seems to be connected to, what's this, high side, so this will be connected to the output switching wave. Evening, Sean Cooper, how's it going, my man? So we've got a little bit of live chat while we're waiting for that to cool down a bit. Let's turn the hot air gun off. What would happen if they didn't match? I.e. you only replace one. Would the imbalance make it hot? So yeah, essentially, like, it might be fine. Especially with this, so MOSFETs that you're running in parallel with one another, okay. Let me try and think of like a analogy. So when you got two MOSFETs running in parallel with one another, so they're both receiving the same signal to turn on, and they're both their outputs are both connected together, okay. So if you've got two MOSFETs that are both being told to turn on at the same time, if these MOSFETs are nicely matched, then they'll both turn on at the exact same time, so their outputs meet together at the exact same time, and they both turn off at the exact same time, so their outputs disappear at the exact same time. And because they're batch matched, they will have the same or very similar internal resistance, so whatever load is demanding power from these two parallel MOSFETs is going to share the power equally between these two MOSFETs, because they both have the same internal resistance, so they'll both provide pretty much equally half the amount of current for the load. Now if you have two MOSFETs in parallel that aren't well matched, you have differences in what's called VT, which is the turn on voltage threshold for the gate on the MOSFET. So that means that when the drive circuit tells these two MOSFETs to turn on, one of these FETs may turn on a fraction of a microsecond earlier than the other one. Yeah. So when that happens, for that tiny fraction of a microsecond that one MOSFET is already on and the other one has yet to turn on yet because it hasn't quite reached the gate threshold voltage, you have MOSFET 1, which is now already turned on. Its output feeds back into the output that is currently off of the other MOSFET, which will allow current to pass through it because of how the stuff inside the MOSFET is oriented. So you have this situation where one MOSFET's on, one MOSFET's off, and it's kind of powering this off MOSFET backwards, and a bunch of current is going to where it shouldn't be. Then when the second MOSFET turns on, then it's fine. And this tiny fraction of a nanosecond doesn't cause much of a problem by itself. It's so short amount of time. The amount of time is so tiny in one pulse, one cycle of that one turning on. But you have to remember these circuits, they switch these MOSFETs on and off in the region of 300,000 times a second. So each of these tiny pulses and each of these tiny events of like slight backwards leaking of current through the MOSFET that's still off, that's happening 300 times a second, and slowly but surely heat builds up on that, because that tiny amount of current that was drained backwards through that off MOSFET, it starts to build up heat over time, which is obviously not ideal. Also, if you have two MOSFETs that aren't perfectly matched, they may have different internal resistances. So when they have different internal resistances, when they're both on and the load demands current from these parallel MOSFETs, then the one with the lower resistance is going to be supplying more of the current than the one with the higher resistance, putting more stress on the MOSFET with the lower resistance, and the one with the higher resistance is just kind of sitting there chilling, not really doing much. So you get this kind of imbalance of current sharing between the two parallel MOSFETs. So you want them to be both batch matched. You want them to be matched with a VT, gate capacitance is good to match, and RDS. In this instance, it's actually a little bit less of an issue. It still would be good to batch match them, but it's a little bit less of an issue because we don't actually have any MOSFETs in parallel here. We have one MOSFET in the low side and one MOSFET in the high side. So each MOSFET is actually in a completely different circuit, then they're not in parallel with each other. One MOSFET is dealing with the low side, one MOSFET is dealing with the high side. Now it's still desirable to have these MOSFETs with matching VTs and RDS. So the resistance of these MOSFETs is important because you will be demanding current from both of these MOSFETs essentially. So you want them to both have a similar resistance, otherwise one of them is going to be working more than the other. Not quite the same as it would be as if they were directly in parallel, but it is still kind of the same. And the turn-on voltages can be a bit different because you have high side and low side. They're not turning on at the exact same time. They're turning on in a kind of seesaw fashion. One of them's turning on, the other one's turning off, the other one's turning on, the other one. So they don't have to be perfectly matched with VT. Because you have a little bit of dead time in between these signals which are telling these MOSFETs to turn on. So the gate drive circuit will tell them, the low side MOSFET, hey, turn on now, and then it will say turn off, and there's a little bit of dead time where neither of them are turned on before the high side comes on. So you have this bit of dead time in between. If you have the drive circuit or the circuit designed and set up poorly, whereby you have what's called cross conduction, where there isn't enough dead time and the MOSFETs are too slow to turn off, and you end up with this kind of crossover where actually for a brief moment of time, while the low side one is turning off, the high side one is turning on, and there's a bit of overlap, and this tiny bit of overlap between these two MOSFETs turning on creates basically a short circuit environment for a fraction of a nanosecond, which causes them to heat up, which is the same issue as the two parallel MOSFETs with different VTs. So yeah, it is good practice to match these MOSFETs by their batches when you're using them in the same channel together, and especially when they're in parallel, more importantly when they're in parallel, but even when they're in high and low side, it's still a good idea to match the batches just so that everything's working the same. Bored in hospital. Oh shit, Sean, man. I hope things get better soon for you. Hope you're able to recover quickly. Fingers crossed, touch wood, I've never had to be in a hospital before yet, so I can imagine it can get pretty boring. Any idea what would cause when a Class AB amplifier is powered on plus minus 22 volts on the gate, plus minus 17 volts on the drain, plus minus 15 volts on the source, on the output effects with no signal? So I assume that you're getting this this DC voltage at the speaker terminals, and I suspect that if you connect a speaker, it's like pushing the speaker out or pulling the speaker in constantly. Is that right? When you say plus minus, do you mean like plus? What do you mean by plus and minus? Is it switching on the source? If you're getting switching like a square wave, then obviously it's not Class AB, it's Class D. But John says, hey Sam, enjoying your videos from Cedar Lake, Indiana. Nice. Any tips on using 2 TRAMS MD8Ks on 4 DC level 415s? Them level 4s don't take a bunch of power, man. You have to be careful there. They're like, I know DC audio like gets a lot of hype and stuff, but the level 4s, they don't take much power. Wanting to split the coils on each sub per amp, but no phase adjustment. So the fact that there is no phase adjustment circuit is actually good, because it means that those amplifiers won't have any variance in phase generally. Okay, so I'm yet to confirm this for sure, but from my experience, the thing that causes differences in phase between amplifiers is the actual phase adjustment circuit itself. So a lack of a phase adjustment circuit is great, because it means that you won't have this differences in phase, because that circuit to shift it off isn't there in the first place. So you should be fine. I would probably split the coils. Have if they're 4 ohms, if they're dual 4s, then and assuming your amps are the 1 ohm stable versions, I would have all four left hand side coils on 1 amp. So all 4 subs, take the left hand coil from each of those subs, parallel it down, put it on 1 amp, and take the right hand coil from every sub and put it on the second amp. That way you've got the 2 MD8Ks, and they're each powering all 4 subs, and they're each powering 1 coil of all 4 subs. and that's beneficial. That is really, really safe and good, because that means that any tiny differences between the gain settings on the amps, or any tiny signal differences between the amps, isn't going to cause half of the subs to move differently to the others. It's just going to cause a slight power imbalance between the fixed coils themselves on each coil former, which is much less of an issue than having power differences between sides of actual woofers in themselves. It's much better to have a slight power difference between the coils that are fixed to each other, because they can't move separate from each other as a result of the imbalance. They're fixed together, so it's much better to have any slight variance in power or phase or whatever it might be on two coils that are fixed together. And it also means that if one amplifier fails or stops outputting audio for whatever reason, at least all 4 subs are still moving and loaded. Whereas if you had them 2 subs on each amp, then if one amp stopped working, you'd have 2 subs that were then suddenly in an enclosure that's way too big for them, with a couple of passive radiators on the one that isn't working. So yeah, definitely do that way. High side 15 volt, low side 15 volt on the speakers, it smokes the speakers immediately. So is that just happening on one channel, or is that happening on all of the channels of this amp? I assume that this is a multi-channel amplifier, so that will tell you a lot about the fault. If it's the same on all of the channels, then you have a fault related to maybe a supply voltage that is required for parts of the drive circuit that all the channels share, or some kind of preamplifier fault that is sending DC or something to all 4 channels. If it's just on one channel, then it's going to be a fault in the drive circuit for that channel. So you're going to have to start using a multimeter, figuring out which transit. It's probably going to be a transistor in the drive circuit that is leaking. You may just have to end up pulling all of the transistors in that drive circuit for that channel and replacing them, just because sometimes they don't die short, they just leak very tiny. It's very hard to actually identify that with the multimeter, so you might just have to go ahead and just replace all the transistors in that channel and see if that makes it work again. I don't like Class AB repairs, it's different to Class D. Is it possible to put a resistor in series with the FETs with the lower internal resistance to balance out the total resistance? No. Firstly, the resistor will get hot and its resistance will shift. Secondly, if you look at the on resistance of these MOSFETs, it's like mega low resistance. So I mean, technically you could, I guess, but the on resistance of MOSFETs changes with temperature as well. It's not a fixed value, and it changes a lot more than a resistor would do. So like, it would just be a fucking headache. Just change all the FETs so they're all the same. No need to start putting resistors in series with the FETs to make them match. Just make the FETs match in the first place and you'll have no problems. I've got a 15-year-old ground zero Class AB bleeding signal between channels. So some amplifiers will do this just because they're a shitty design. That is called channel separation. If you look at specifications of an amplifier on like their spec sheet or the data sheet or something for an amplifier, channel separation is exactly that. It's how much bleed you get from one channel to the other. Good quality amplifiers will have extremely high channel separation, meaning that even with one channel fully maxed out, you don't get any leaking or any kind of residual of that channel on any of the other channels. If it's a really poorly designed amplifier, then you'll get quite a lot of bleed between channels, so it's possible that it's just a poorly designed amplifier. But if you're getting a lot of bleed that you weren't getting before, then yeah, it could be a bunch of dirt in the potentiometers that is causing some slight conductivity between the wipers and the actual, because obviously the gain potentiometer will be like a bunch of stacked potentiometers, and so you might have like a bunch of grease or a bunch of grime or dirt in there that's causing some resistance, some actual conductivity between those contacts in the potentiometer, perhaps. Or the same goes for the switches, the toggle switches on the side of the amp. They'll pass the audio through the toggle switches themselves. So if they are like got loads of crap in them, then you may get some conductivity between the rails in the switch. So clean all of the switches and pots and see if it goes away. Vincent says, can you answer the question and work on the amp? Yeah, I guess I could, sorry. I'm not having the best day today, so I'm just kind of like doing one thing at a time. Alright, let's have a look at this then. So what did we do? We removed the 2 MOSFETs from this channel. So now, what I want to do next is I want to try and figure out, I want to just have a look at what is the purpose of the 4 resistors on these channels that have all burned. I want to know what they're doing. I want to know what they're feeding. Are they just part of the feedback section? Are they just part of the filter network for each of the channels, or are they part of the supply voltage feeding the 2092? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is have a look at one of these channels where the resistor is nice and easy to access. This one, for example. So the MOSFETs are all fine, we know in this amplifier, so we're going to go ahead and probe one side of this resistor, see where we get continuity to. So we don't have continuity to the audio wave coming out of the MOSFET, any continuity to any of the pins of the 2092, no. Perhaps we have continuity to some of the auxiliary voltage supplies over here, because maybe it's a supply voltage for plus minus 15 or plus 12 ref negative rail. Nope. Maybe it goes off to the speaker terminal. Nope, doesn't go off to the speaker terminal. Perhaps it has rail voltage on it. Nope, doesn't have rail voltage on it either. Okay, let's try the other pad, see if we can find anything that the other pad's connected to. So we'll start again, we'll go to the MOSFETs. Okay, that is high, wait, I'm upside down. Okay, that is low side drain, I believe. Yeah, low side drain. So that is the actual audio output. That is the audio output. Now that's very interesting. So why would that have killed the resistor on all 4 channels? So that's the audio output. And then where does, so I want to know where it goes. So it's a 10 ohm resistor between the audio output. Probably one of these capacitors. Yeah, it is part of the filter network. Yeah, it will go through the inductor. So yeah, that's what's happening. That's part of the filter network. Very interesting that has failed it on all 4 channels though. Really interesting. I wonder why that's happened. So yeah, we probably got continuity on this pad to one of these capacitors, and it will be yeah, it will be part of the filter network. One thing that I think might be the reason that this has happened. Okay, so obviously this inductor is going to be acting like a low pass filter, right? And this inductor has a inductance value that is calibrated, that's specifically designed to filter out whatever switching frequency this circuit is set up to generate on these MOSFETs. So let's say, for example, it's 300 kilohertz. Okay, this inductor is designed to filter 300 kilohertz essentially, and above, for this channel, and it does that by, obviously the current passes through the inductor, but then it also needs a pathway to ground for this inductor to actually work. So you have this 10 ohm resistor and then a capacitor, and obviously a capacitor will allow high frequencies to pass on block DC. So the high frequency, 300 kilohertz or whatever, will come onto this inductor, and the fact that this inductor has a pathway through to ground through a capacitor, the high frequency will see that as a direct route through, and it will try and pull that high frequency current through the inductor, which will then filter it, so it won't actually burn the resistor that is in series here with the capacitor grounding out the signal coming from this inductor, because it filters it, the fact that it's got a load to ground through this capacitor. Now, the reason that this resistor will burn is if whichever frequency is being sent through this inductor and if suddenly it goes way too high. So let's say, for example, the frequency is supposed to be 300 kilohertz. If the frequency suddenly jumps to 800 kilohertz for whatever reason, then the 800 kilohertz will make its way through the inductor, through the capacitor to ground, and will draw a bunch of current across this resistor here, because the inductor isn't filtering out that 800 kilohertz, it's passing it straight through. Therefore, current goes through this resistor, through the capacitor to ground, which will put huge stress obviously on the resistor. It'll put stress on the MOSFETs, as they'll be draining current through the inductor to ground, and it won't be a very nice situation for the amplifier at all. So one possibility that happened is that whatever failure happened on this channel caused some nonsense to go on with this drive IC, which then caused some nonsense to go down the supply pin for this drive IC, which is going to be paralleled with all the other drive ICs. So like whatever voltage is feeding this drive IC is going to be the same voltage supply that feeds all the other drive ICs, and there may be some other shared pins as well. There may be some other pins that are shared between these channels. So it may be that whatever happened over here caused some strange circumstances with the circuit that for some reason caused the switching frequency to become much different on the other 3 remaining channels, which caused the frequency that was actually then being sent through the inductor to be grounded out through the capacitor, which then killed these resistors. That's one theory that may have happened. We're just speculating at the moment. We don't know for sure, and we may never know what actually happened here. When you've got failures like this, you just have to kind of look at the evidence that's presented in front of you and try and figure out what may have happened in what order. And you may get it right, you may get it wrong, you may never know. But yeah, that's just kind of how it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to power it up just yet. Because the remaining 3 channels here, their MOSFETs are fine, and I imagine their drivers are probably fine as well. I don't want to ask these 3 channels to energize without having their resistive and capacitive route to ground through the inductor, because if I do that, then the filter inductors are not going to actually do anything. They're not going to work properly in filtering that high frequency switching, because they don't have a pathway to ground through the inductor. So we need to replace these resistors. I don't know if I have on hand some 10 ohm resistors that are that big, that are surface mount. I might have from my donor boards. I'm just going to take a quick peek at a couple of donor boards I've got over here to see if I've got some 10 ohm resistors that are big enough. I've got some donor boards. Where are we? I had a bunch of these tiny like gel audio donor boards and stuff recently. There's one here. Okay, here's one. Let's have a look, see if there's a couple of 10 ohm resistors that are big enough on here. Got a bunch of 20, you can a massive hole in this board, that's why it's a donor. Got some 22s. Don't think we've got any 10s on this one. No, so the Easter pink, so the inductors, they are a low pass filter, okay? So, oh no, wait, you're right. Hang on a minute. No, yeah, you are right. You are right, actually. If the frequency increases, then it will further block. So maybe, sorry, I must have got that the other way around. So perhaps the switching frequency became lower as a result of whatever happened. Perhaps the switching frequency went from 300 kilohertz to 50 kilohertz or something, which would have caused this same thing. So I think I had that backwards. Well spotted, well corrected there on Easter Pink. Thanks for that. Found them. Here we go. So this is an old Crescendo. See if we've got a 10 ohm resistor on here that we can steal for a couple of these. I've got a 16 ohm there. I think these were all 10s. I've stolen them before in the past. 2.2. Nope, none on that one. How about this little JX 500/1? Usually you find them over on a speaker terminal. It's got 16 ohms again just there. 1 ohm over here. There's a 10, but it's a bit too small. I think just for the meantime, just so I can actually continue working on this on live stream, I'm going to temporarily solder some through-hole 10 ohm resistors in place, and then order some surface mount ones that are the right size later on. Yeah, let's drop a couple of through-hole 10 ohm resistors in place now. I mean, oh, that's 100. Just so we can continue looking at this on stream. Just got to find some 10 ohms first. Thanks for the kind words, George. I appreciate that, man. That's really cool. Just try my best, really. When you're looking for resistors, through-hole resistors with the color code stripes, when you're looking for 10 ohms and 100 ohms always look really similar, because you got, for the 10 ohms you got like black, brown, gold, or whatever it is, and for 100 ohms you got black, brown, black. I don't know. But the brown and black are very, very similar looking. Okay, yeah, I found one so far. This might be a second one. Yep, there's two. So I just need two more. Three, four. That should be our four. Three and four. Yep, there we go. There's 4 10 ohm through-hole resistors. Have I seen an Audison Prima amplifier thumbnail in one of your videos? I don't think so. Maybe? Not sure if I worked on one of those. Have you heard of Monkey London? No, I haven't. What is that? Summer had a... Oh, Neerish, how's it going, man? Really good to see you jump on the stream. I hope you and your son are doing well. I know you were building a couple of systems recently, hey? I had a few repairs of another Brazilian 4-channel amps and found that those 10 ohm burned on all channels, but after replacing them I found 3 of those filter coils to be faulty as well. Interesting, so that's some good info here from Neerish. Neerish is a fellow repair technician from South Africa, and what he says makes sense. So you will find that these little 10 ohm resistors will burn. Like I say, the reason for these 10 ohm resistors burning is when something is being sent through these inductors that wasn't intended to be sent through them. It's making its way through the inductor and also making its way through the series capacitor. So it's going to be AC. So if something that's AC makes its way through the inductor and is high enough frequency to also make its way through the capacitor, then it's going to burn the resistor. Now, what Neerish here says is, he says that generally he finds that these resistors are burned when the inductor here has damage or is shorted or is the incorrect value. So if you have vibration damage on these inductors and they short and they're no longer working as an inductor, they're just basically completely shorting out between these two pads across them, then they're not going to filter that 300 kilohertz. They're going to send that 300 kilohertz straight to this resistor capacitor combo here, and that's going to naturally burn the resistor because it's grounding that 300 kilohertz straight to ground. And it may also burn the MOSFET as well if the circuit doesn't catch it in time. If you don't catch it in time, it will massively kill the MOSFET because that'll be basically grounding out that switching frequency straight away to ground. So yeah, that's another reason that resistor will burn. This one seems pretty new and pretty well assembled. Like, I don't see any signs of rubbing, any of that kind of dustiness you get on these inductors when they are rubbing and shorting out. So I'm wondering whether these inductors are fine, and it's going to be more like the issue that I predicted earlier, where the thing that happened on one of these channels caused some weird kind of circuit nonsense going on that made the switching frequency of the other 3 channels to be much different than what it was intended to be, much lower. So let's put these 10 ohm resistors in place. What's up, Fuego? How's it going, my man? Okay, there's some fresh solder on these pads. Now, am I going to go with hot air or soldering iron? Let's try with the iron first. I'm going to dump some flux in here. And let's just see whether that's the right kind of distance between the legs. Yeah, it looks about right. So I'm going to go ahead and latch this one down first over this side. Okay. And just bring that over a touch. There we go. And then touch that down over there. Now I don't think I can get my iron. Can I get my iron in there between that capacitor without touching the plastic? Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's one. Any amps on the market that are built to be played at 0.5 ohms? Yeah, absolutely. There's loads of them, especially a lot of the Brazilian. So a lot of the Brazilian manufacturers will actually offer the same model of amplifier in 3 different versions. You'll have a 2 ohm stable version, a 1 ohm stable version, and then a 0.5 ohm stable version. Taramps do this, Powerus do this, maybe Stetson do it as well. I think Sound Digital might do it as well to an extent. So yeah, you will find that. Lanzar also made some 0.5 stable amplifiers. Lanzar Opti 7000 was a 7000 watt RMS amplifier into 0.5. And you also have the Vibe, I don't know what it's called, Vibe Black Death 3500, which is rated for 3.5K into 0.5. So yeah, there's definitely quite a few just off the top of my head. Solid Audio 2500D as well, 0.5 ohms, rated at 0.5 as well. PDX 10K, PPI PDX 10K, 0.5 ohms rated. Obviously the Taramps Smart 3 base is 0.5 ohm rated as well. Would it be worth checking the blue caps between those resistors to ground? Yeah, it would be worth checking them, but from my experience, when those capacitors fail, they fail quite dramatically. Yeah, they'll melt and burn and stuff, so they're much less likely to fail because when current is passing across those capacitors, their resistance is much lower. Like when you've got a frequency that is too low for them, they're just passing it. They don't really, they don't kind of take the current in quite the same way, so they're less likely to fail as a result of like this kind of issue here. The 10 ohm resistor will have acted like a fuse and will have burned itself to a crisp before the capacitor really even cared about what was going on. You have to think of the capacitor a bit like a sort of like a bucket of water, like a little reservoir of water, and you've got water coming in to fill it up, and you've got water going out. And when you've got little pulses of water that are coming in and little demands of water that are going out that are quick enough, then it's almost like the reservoir isn't there because the water's coming in, the water's going out. Whereas when you have a huge gush of water come into the reservoir and fill it up, and there's no demand from the other side, then it's just, the water's just kind of going to sit there. It's going to block it. That's a pretty bad analogy, actually. Forget that. Not sure what I'm trying to say with that, but yeah, it's the capacitor doesn't really care too much. Sam, have you got your hands on any down for sound amps? No, definitely not. So I don't say that because then I don't think they're any good, but I'm in the UK. Down for sound, JP, all that jazz, that's an American thing. There's no UK distributor or dealer for any of that stuff. It's just generic amp. It's just generic boards anyway, so there's not really a demand for that in the UK. We have plenty of other brands that are offering the same circuit, you know, that are actually based here or that are importing them directly from the factory here. It would be massively pointless for a customer to pay for a JP amplifier over here, because it will be coming from the factory to America, then America to here, or wherever the chain is. Whereas the brands we've got over here obviously are just importing them directly from the factory, so it cuts out that whole trip to America and all the shipping involved in that. So yeah, it'd be pretty pointless for us to have them over here. So but to answer your question, have I ever seen any of the JP amplifiers? Like, yes, I have worked on the same circuit, but it just doesn't happen to have the JP stick on the front. So, like, if you want to know about a specific JP amplifier, send me a guts pic, and I'll then link you to a video that I've done repairing the same amplifier with a different sticker on the front. Okay, last one now. So I'm just putting these in temporarily because I don't have any large enough surface mount 10 ohm resistors that this circuit demands. So I'm just putting some through hole resistors in now, just so we can continue looking at this on live stream. And I'll get some surface mount ones ordered up so it's a bit tidier, because it's not really, it would work fine, but it's not really ideal to have these great big through hole resistors hanging off these pads like this. So yeah, I'll just pop these on for the purposes of the stream to get it up and running. See what other issues we have. I wonder whether we're actually going to have any other issues. I wonder whether it's just going to be a case of FETs, maybe a driver on this channel, and then this filter network nonsense that's going on. Okay, there we go, there's 4. So now it's safe to turn the amplifier on and check the other 3 channels, because we now have that link through from the inductor through to ground via the capacitor and resistor. So yeah, we have safe pathway through now. So let's go ahead and hook up our power wires, turn on the oscilloscope for the first time this evening. Sound cubed. Yeah, we don't really get that over here either. Like a lot of these American only brands, we don't really get over here because it's kind of pointless shipping the stuff all the way over there, all the way over here when we have the same circuits but with other brands on them. Stuff that is bespoke, like JL Audio, Rockwood Fosgate and stuff, yeah, we do get that over here because you can't get that from another brand because it's their own bespoke circuit. So yeah, we do get that stuff, but we don't get any of the kind of like cheap budget brand American company stuff like we don't get the the CAB amplifiers, cardio bargain. We don't get those because again, this is a generic circuit with some tweaks. All that audio pipe. Yeah, we get some audio pipe because you can buy that directly from. I think there was an audio pipe dealer distributor in the UK for a while. So yeah, we were getting some audio pipe stuff for a while. Audio pipe is just generic Chinese circuit stuff. So it's built quite well though. The audio pipe stuff is not bad for the money. Like if someone had a really like limited budget and just wanted some bass for a daily driver and was like looking for something between 1,000 watts to 3,000 watts RMS, yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend them an audio pipe, provided it was priced accordingly. Alright, so let's get this thing powered up then for the first time. Got power wires going in, so we are expecting the power supply to be okay because we don't have any visual signs of power supply failure, so I expect that's probably going to be fine. Channel 3, we don't have the MOSFETs fitted. Now, because this is an IRS 2092 drive circuit, I'm not expecting to see any actual drive pulses on the pads for these MOSFETs because the 2092 doesn't really actually provide constant pulses when there is no MOSFET detected. When it doesn't detect that there's MOSFET fitted there, it kind of, when it powers up for the first time, it will send a little tiny pulse to get the MOSFETs going, to get the kind of self-oscillating environment built, and if that doesn't happen, then it just kind of sits there chilling, waiting for you to put MOSFETs in. So yeah, I'm not expecting to see pulses from this, but I do want to make sure that we don't have any massive leak of DC on these pads from this driver. I want to make sure this driver doesn't overheat and burn as well. I just want to make sure that the other 3 channels are okay as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the power supply on. I'm just going to go nice low voltage in to start with, 9.6 volts, something nice and low, and going to probe the low side drain. Oh, helps if I have a ground reference for my scope. Going to go ahead and probe the low side drain of this channel over here and see what we get on the scope. So yeah, I think we're good to power it up now. Okay, so that had positive rail voltage on it. You see that on the scope screen there? It got a massive swing to positive. So maybe this one's the low side. Maybe I had those backwards. Yeah, that's probably the low side. So do we get switching? Oh yeah, we do. Got some switching there. It was only a little bit of switching. It kind of appeared and then disappeared again. So I wonder whether that is the amplifier detecting that channel 3 isn't switching and going into protect as a result of that. So let's just go ahead and probe this channel again and see what we get. So powered up. Yeah, we get switching and then it immediately turns off again. So let's just see if that happens on all 3 channels, because that probably is as a result of the MOSFETs not being present on this one and the amps detecting that, oh hey, there's nothing fitted over here, no switching on channel 3, so I'm going to go into protect. So I'll make sure these other channels are switching good. Yep. Ah! Interesting, the switching doesn't disappear from this channel. It stays there, but the switching does disappear from this channel. That's interesting. So it's possible that the reason for that might be because, so you see this 2092S, this will be outputting some sort of signal to tell the rest of the circuit that, hey, I'm not oscillating. And that might be tied to this one, but it might be separate from this one. These are 4-channel amplifiers, so we might have, for example, channels 1 and 2 over here, which can be functioning while channels 3 and 4 are in protect, for example. So that's what we might have going on over there. So yeah, we do still have switching on this channel over here. So I'm just going to check this final channel over here, this one. Yeah, this one does still switch as well, and it remains switching as well, but we do have a flashing red light. That might be it telling us that the battery voltage is a bit low. These amps will tell you when you got like 9 volts going in. So we do have these channels active. Channels 1 and 2 over on this side are active, and Class D switching is stable. Over this side, however, we have no Class D switching on channel 4. It appears for a brief moment and then disappears. Now the Class D switching frequency for these channels that are working fine over here, channels 1 and 2, is, I think, 420. Hey! 420 kilohertz. Hey! Love to see it. 420 kilohertz over here on the 2 functioning channels. Now I just want to see what that looks like on this channel that kind of appears for a brief moment and then disappears. I want to see if the switching frequency is the same or not. 447, a little higher actually. So that's interesting. Does it change at all? Yeah, 447, so it's a little bit higher actually, very slightly higher. Like I said, that could be because this other channel that it's kind of part of the same family of isn't oscillating, and that might be something to do with it. So, okay, let's probe the empty pads now for this channel that failed. So what we got over here is we've got the high side, I think. This is the high side, so we just want to make sure that there's no DC leaking on the gate. The high side gate should be 0 volts at all times. And the low side gate should be negative rail. And like I say, you sometimes get some pulses, but because this is a 2092, I don't think we're going to get any pulses here. So let's just see what we get. Yeah, nothing there on the screen at all. You see here, I'm just going to kind of turn the amplifier off and back on again. You don't get any hint at any pulses or attempts or anything like that. I think that's just because it's a 2092 and they don't do that. They don't give you any visual pulses or like kickstart or anything like that. So let's just check the high side, make sure the high side isn't doing anything funky. We've got 2 volts on the high side, which yeah, I'm happy with that. That seems okay. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to grab some replacement MOSFETs, some 5620s. I think I've got some spare 5620s, and I'm going to load those up into the board and see if the driver for this failed channel has survived, see if it's okay, and see whether by fitting those MOSFETs there it allows both channels 3 and 4 to remain active and not switch off immediately as it's currently doing. Sam, do you think it's okay that a used probe number to... Wait, what? Aaron? Do you think it's okay that a used probe number to ground and probe with number 1 on... Sorry, I have no idea what you're saying. A used probe number to ground and a probe with number 1 on the oscilloscope. I'm not sure what you mean, my friend. Apologies. Maybe you can reword it. So let's go ahead and grab some what are they? 5620s. No, where would they be? No, what actually is a 5620? I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the data sheet so you can see what it is. IOFB 5620. I think it's a 80 or 100 volt or something like that. I'm completely wrong. It's a 200. Why are they using 200 volt? I know why they're using it. It's because this amplifier is it's a half bridge 4 channel, so it's you have plus minus rail voltage here. So yeah, plus minus, what is it? Let's give the amplifier 14 volts just real quick. What is the rail voltage in this amplifier? So are those 200 volt FETs? Are they sensible? Do they make sense? Yeah, we've got 53 volts. So plus minus 53 is going to give us, it's about 110 volts with 14.8, maybe 100, 110, 115 volts worth of potential across the rails. So 200 volt FETs is a little bit overkill. You could use 150 volt FETs and it'll be fine. Yeah, nice bit of headroom on those FETs there. That's That's fine. Love to see it. So 200 volts, and these are 60 milliohm. Yeah, pretty low RDS. Pretty low current as well. Not massively high current FETs really. 25 amp. 18 amps when you get to 100 degrees Celsius, which you don't want to be doing. 100 amps pulse drain current. So these are going to be, they're going to trade some power for some speed, some ability to switch on and off very quickly. Now, the more powerful the MOSFET, the more kind of bulky and heavy and hard to switch quickly it is. Wait, do I have my? I don't have my side screen on. There we go. There I am. Yeah, so the more powerful the MOSFET, the more difficult it is to switch, and the more difficult it is to switch quickly. It turns on and off slower. So I am expecting to see on the datasheet some pretty quick delay times on here, and some pretty low charge values. What have we got? Total gate charge 25. Yeah, very low. So low gate charge, 25 NC on the gate charge. Probably got some pretty low input. Yeah, very low input capacitance, 1710 as well. So very easy to drive. Barely needs any current. There's not much capacitance there for the drive circuit to deal with. If we look at the delays on this, here we go. Turn on delay time, 8.6 nanoseconds and 1470. Yeah, pretty low. Not the lowest that I've ever seen, actually. I have seen some more powerful MOSFETs that are a little bit quicker with the rise and fall times. But this is pretty quick though, still. By comparison, some of the big powerful MOSFETs in some of the big monos that you'll find, their rise and fall times are in the hundreds of nanoseconds. So this is a very fast MOSFET. So and the reason it needs to be quick is because it is being asked to switch at 420,000 times a second, 420 kilohertz. Let's see if I have any spares of those. Now, where would they be? 200 volt is what they are. So do I have any in this one? 5620, wasn't it? I think I've got a bag of them somewhere. I think I've actually got an actual bag of them somewhere. Let's have a look in this one maybe. Or maybe I used them up. Okay, what's in here? IRF. What are these ones? IRF 6218. Okay, that's not quite right. Maybe I don't have any 5620s, but we definitely have some that are similar enough. You know what? Some 640Ns might even work in place here. What's this? What is this? What is this? 3415s? No, not quite right either. What's this one? 3207? Nope. Okay, so I just think for the purposes of the live stream, I'm going to bang in some alternatives in there. I don't even think are these ones even available to buy anymore anywhere? These original ones. Let's have a look. RFB 5620s. Let's see whether these are available anywhere to buy. Google usually isn't the best place to do a quick search for us. Let's try RS components. Let's have a look in here. Okay, so yeah, they have them on RS and they're in stock. Great. They're not cheap, they're pretty expensive, but I do only need 2 of them, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, they're available. I wonder if they're any cheaper on Farnell. Out of stock. Cool. But just for the purposes of the live stream, let's whack in a couple of 640Ns, because they are very compatible. They're the same voltage. They're pretty much the same, very similar current handling. So okay, got some IRF 640Ns. Let's just find a pair that they're not the same batch, because I have a bunch of random dead ones here pulled from working amps. So 4.1. We're just looking to match up the VT here. .1, there we go. That's perfect. So we'll just temporarily quickly solder a bunch of these in. A couple of these in. Just need 2 of them. One, 2, there you go. That's all it's going to take just to get this thing powered up for us quickly to see if it's this channel's working or not. Alright, so power supply back on. Wait for this to just cool down a little bit from being soldered. We want to probe the low side. Now, yeah, this is the point where we see whether the drive circuit has survived or not. Actually, one thing I've just noticed as well, I just remembered, we're still missing the diodes over here by the speaker terminals. Now, I don't actually know exactly the purpose of these at this point in time, but we do want to replace them just in case they are critical for kind of any switching or anything like that. So these are marked with U2D, which, if we take a quick look on the web, I think these are fast recovery switching diodes. U2D diode. I think I have some spares of these. I think it's this one. U2D, yeah. So this is MURS 22OT3G. So this ultra fast power rectifiers. So let's see if I have any of those that are spare. We have U4C, which might be fine. U1D. RS1G. It'll be the same thing with just a slightly different manufacturer, probably. U4C. Ah, there's a U2D. Perfect. And maybe this is another one. U2D. I think these are both U2Ds. Yep. A couple of U2Ds right there and there. Awesome stuff. Frank says, I think they're for detecting DC on the outputs. Oh, maybe, yeah, they could be part of the DC protection, DC offset protection circuit. You're right, I suppose they could be. Make sure these ones are alright. 452, 449. Yep, seems alright. Guys, do you think the engineers at Taram specifically chose 420 kilohertz for any meme reason? Meme-tastic reasons? Like, why specifically 420 kilohertz? Why not like 410 or 430 or just 400? Like, why 420 specifically? I wonder whether that was intentional. Like, that would be the most ridiculous Easter egg, wouldn't it? Like, imagine as an amplifier design engineer putting an Easter egg so deep in the circuit that only someone that's going to be repairing this and looking at the switching wave on an oscilloscope is going to actually get it. That's a really deep Easter egg. I'm not a huge fan of how that solder's balled up there, so I'm just going to go ahead and just touch my iron on that to clean up a little bit. Alright, cool. Let's go then. Let's see what this channel is saying. So, there's our low side. Cool, cool. There's our high side. What are we saying? Is there going to be any switching taking place? Ta-da! Nice! It is a little bit faster on this side though. Got 440. 442 on this side. So I would say that it's probably not an Easter egg. As if it was, then it would be the same, wouldn't it, on all sides. There we go, 441, so it is the same on all four channels now. So yeah, the switching frequency appears to vary depending on what's going on with the rest of the circuit around it. Which actually, therefore, further emphasizes the possibility of our theory earlier. Do you understand that? That's really cool. That actually probably clarifies our theory earlier as to what happened here with this circuit, right? So with only channels 1 and 2 oscillating, we had 420 kilohertz as a switching frequency. Okay. Over this side, we had 440 something for like a brief fraction of a second before it turned off. But once we loaded up the MOSFETs into channel 3 and all the channels were oscillating together, the switching frequency changed on these two to become 442, as it should be. That sounds like it should be the switching frequency for all these. It's working fine now, right? So if some nonsense went on with this channel, the fact that the switching frequency seems to change depending on what's going on with the other channels, that gives a lot of not clarity, that gives a lot of emphasis towards the fact that when this channel failed, whatever nonsense it sent back through the rest of the circuit likely shifted the switching frequency of the remaining 3 channels enough that the frequency was too low, and therefore the switching frequency made its way through the inductor because it wasn't being filtered anymore, through this capacitor to ground, through the resistor, which is why all of those resistors were burned. So yeah, that actually gives perfect clarification to the fact that that's probably actually what happened. Like, man, who clicks on this stuff? Who actually, like, obviously people must click on that for it to be worth bots being made and stuff, right? But who actually clicks on that stuff? When checking switching, are you feeding an input source? No, so the switching frequency won't change when fed with an RCA signal. The duty cycle will just change in order to create a potential difference across high side and low side, which will create the sine wave. So the switching frequency won't change when you feed it with an audio signal. Just the duty cycle will shift in order to create that potential difference to make a sine wave. So yeah, that's cool. I'm going to go ahead and assume that there's going to be audio on this amplifier now anyway. But yeah, I'm going to need to go ahead and actually order a couple of those MOSFETs. What are they? Yeah, I need to go ahead and order a couple of these. Get these ordered up, get them in. Okay, cool. Well, that's that one done. Nice. Good shiz. I think what I'll do is, I think we'll end the live stream in about 15, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. We'll end the live stream in about 20 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll just put this amplifier to one side while we wait for those MOSFETs to arrive. It should be next day shipping, so they're probably going to arrive not tomorrow, the day after, because it's a bit late now, isn't it? So. Yo, Is6, thanks for the 420. Stream till the next 420. No, that's far too long. That's going to be far too late. But I like your thinking there, my friend. I like your thinking. So next, the thing we can have a quick look at next, in the next 20 minutes or so. What have we got? What have we got? Let's put these screws away. Put this on one side. So we have got two Hyphonics, got a couple of Hyphonics amplifiers, and there is a Rockwood Fosgate Power Series 2500 watts. You know, one of those great big boys. But I think that deserves a proper long stream of its own. So I don't think I'm going to get that out just yet. I'm going to do a long stream of that, you know, for its own right. So yeah, I've got two Hyphonics. I've got either this thing here, which is a high HFI 2000D. Now I don't know, is this a newer one or is this an older one? Seems a bit old, maybe. Smells like weed. So yeah, I've got that one. Or the other one which we've got is this one, which is actually a, what's this? Speaker output. Hyphonics Brutus BXI 2407D. So guys, what do you reckon? What do you want to see? Do you want to see the BXI 2407, or do you want to see whatever this is, this HFI 2000? Which one do you want to see? HFI 2000 or BXI 2407? Actually, I'm not going to be looking at these for too long. We're just going to take a quick peek inside these and see what faults are. I wonder if they're going to be based on the same circuit or not. Whatever happened to the amplifiers that you had fixed in Australia? Are they still up and running? I don't know if they are now. I know that I know that one of them blew, one of them failed because a bit of metal got inside the circuit while it was powered up, I think. So that one of them failed again as a result of that. The other three, I believe, are still working fine. I'd laugh so much if you opened it up and it's full of weed. What are people saying? Brutus 2407, Hi-Fi 2407. So where we got? So we're 2 votes for the 2407, 3 votes, 2 votes for the Hi-Fi 2407, Hi-Fi, Weed 1, 2000. Alright, I'll take the back off both of them so we can see what the differences of the circuits are. So let's do the Weed one first. Let's do the Stank one first. Oh, it's been one of those evenings, isn't it? 420 kilohertz and stanking like piff. Someone says, please, my man, tell me what you think is best amp for an FI BTL 18. Like, there's so many to choose from. Like, there's so many amps that would be great on that sub. I can't just pull one out of it. It depends what's available for sale in your area. Like, I would always recommend buying used if you can. The only amplifiers that I would recommend buying brand new, because the price of them is so good in the first place, are the likes of Taramps and Powerus and that kind of thing. Sound Digital, although I'm not a huge fan of Sound Digital. So, like, what's it? So I would say maybe whack it on a Taramp Smart 3. Would be a great thing if you want to buy brand new. Whack it on a Powerus PW 2500. Or look on the used market for some old Korean 3K or something. I want a Taramp's base 8K, but it's overkill. Yeah, that is a bit overkill. But there's nothing wrong with having headroom. So if you've got a Taramp's base 8K, right, that would be absolutely brilliant amplifier to have, because you would be, you know, barely running that thing. You'd be barely tickling that amp, and it's going to be just chilling. It's going to be having a good time. It's going to be relaxed. It's not going to be stressing. So, you know, that would actually be the best thing. Having more power than you need on tap is actually really, really good. So, yeah, go for it. If you have the budget and you have the Taramp's 8K, base 8K available to you, then yeah, that's a great choice. It's going to sound really nice and dynamic and easy because it's so overkill. This amp has it has a bunch of this kind of like foam tape around the edge. I guess the guy was trying to prevent it from like rattling against the enclosure or whatever, so taking the back off is quite fun. Let's trim that down here. There we go. Alright, so the Weed amp, does it, yeah, oh yeah, bong. Bong is, yeah, it has that kind of, like, I wouldn't say it's exactly like weed. I guess it's a bit like an adhesive that smells a bit like weed. It's not exactly like weed, but it gives you that same kind of vibe. So now this amplifier is the classic, the Maxonics circuit design that has the really shitty driver card with the known fault, the known issue with the 1D transistors. If you follow amplifier repair in any means and you have read Perry's guide, you'll know about this. The two little 1D transistors here on the driver card always fail. They ran way too hard, and it causes the output section to fail or get no Clarty switching or whatever. So often these ones can be a really quick, easy, simple repair, because often it just takes replacing those two transistors on the driver board and you're ready to go. So that might be all that's wrong with this one. I don't see any burned power supply FETs. I don't see any vibration damage. Like, there's no visual signs of failure really in this thing. It's, you know, still holding together pretty nicely. So yeah, It's probably just going to be a case of replacing the 1D transistors on the driver card. Now, how about the BXI? Let's see what circuit is used in this one. I can't remember exactly. So let's have a look together. See what we've got in here in this one. So obviously I'm not in the US, so weed is still illegal over here. Like it's pretty relaxed. Like it's not massively like policed that seriously. You know, if you've got weed on you, it's fine. It's a bit of a slap on the wrist, but it's, you know, it's no big deal. If you're dealing it or selling it, it's a bit more of a problem though. But but obviously since going legal in the US. Did it become much cheaper, or did it get more expensive, like compared to when you were buying it illegally? Like what actually happened there? Did it obviously it became a lot more available, but did it get cheaper? Did it get more expensive? What about the quality? Did it get better quality or worse quality? Or it's the same circuit. It's the exact same circuit. Is it actually exactly the same? Let's zoom out a bit. Let's have a look at these two. There we go, Classic Hyphonics, selling the same amp again under a different model number. So what have we got? I got this backwards. Let's flip that around. So 100 volt rail caps, 2200 UF. Microfarad, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 output MOSFETs, RF640N, same drive circuit, same drivers. Exactly the same board layout, even down to the filters. Same power supply, relatively similar build quality. Ooh, slightly different position of these resistors. Ooh, look at these. Oh, look at it go. It's like slight variance. Oh, look at this. This transistor here is the other way around to the one on this board. This transistor is on the right hand side of this capacitor, whereas this transistor is on the left hand side of this capacitor. So they're changing it up, aren't they? Look at them go, absolute rebels. Same. Oh no, over here we've got the same directions. The transistor's on the left and it's on the left over here. This is for protection actually. These little transistors down here, these are for protection. How about power supply drivers? Yep, same position, exactly the same on this side. Same power supply driver board, same power supply caps. So yeah, exactly the same. It's actually even got the same board. Look, powered by Maxonics, J3. Do we have a board model number anywhere? Got the powered by Maxonics over there. Now, is there an actual model number for this that we can see if it's different? I can't see. Oh wait, here we go. I'm being blind. So on this one, the model is printed. The model isn't printed here on this one. So on this one, the model is part number SMB 04590, 2006. So revision 0. So this was like the first revision of that one. So this one, did we have a model somewhere else printed on the board maybe? So it's not there where it was on the other one. Here we go, down here, Hive HFI 2000 V1.0. We haven't got a date on there though now. But it's exactly the same circuit, and I'll be interested to see if it's the same rail voltage or not. So, okay, cool. What we're going to go ahead and do is power each one of these up and just see whether we have output switching. It's probably going to be I reckon it might even be the same fault on both of these. I reckon the fault might be the same. It's going to be probably the 1D transistors on the driver card. That's the same fault on both of these. Jose says a lot of everything happened when it was legalized state by state. Oh, of course, because it's different laws per state, isn't it? Still federally illegal, and a lot of people still buy from the black or grey market. It's Not legally in Ohio unless you have a medical card. Ah, okay, so I guess that means, so federally illegal means that it's like it's illegal is like the main law, but then each state can have its different laws on it, maybe. So like it can be kind of illegal across the board, but then some states can be like, ah, nah, we're gonna make it legal. Is that kind of how it works? I actually don't like it. Unpopular opinion. I absolutely am for the benefits of it for some people. I totally get the feeling and how it makes you feel, but like every time that I have it, I just feel like, so I'm quite kind of energetic, and I always want to be doing something. I always want to be actively doing something, repairing something, or like doing something, tidying, or like designing something, or playing some video game quite intensively. Or I'm always doing something. I always want to be doing something, right? And for me, I feel that if I have weed or anything like that, I kind of lose the ability to concentrate on doing anything, and that kind of pisses me off. I'm sitting there like, oh man, like, oh, I really want to go and like check out that amp, or I really want to like open up SketchUp and design that like T line, or I want to, I have like lots of things I want to do, and I feel like I can't focus on it properly or do it, and that pisses me off. And I'm like, oh man, I wish this feeling would hurry up and go away so I can get on with my shit. I totally get, obviously, that if you don't want to have any feeling that you want to be doing something, and if you just want to chill and that's it, then it's great, I guess. But yeah, whenever I have it, I'm just kind of end up feeling a bit too like I feel a bit too unable to do anything. But I get that there's different strands and different types that will give you different types of feeling. I think there is like certain types of it that you can have that still allow you to concentrate, but you're just kind of more chilled out about it, maybe. I don't know, but whenever I've had it, I've always just felt a bit like, this is annoying. Alright, so I've got some power going into this first one. This is the HFI. So let's just see whether we get output switching. Can't remember which is low side and high side on this one. Okay, so we do get... Oh, there was something really weird going on at first there. When the amplifier first powers up... Okay, there we go. Got a really low switching frequency there of 67 kilohertz. So this one is working at 9 volts. I'm just going to go ahead and crank up the voltage a bit. 14 volts, yep, still switching. So is it that this one isn't passing audio? So this amp is working fine at the moment. Inputs, yep, turn the gain down a bit. Now, what are the settings on the side of this one? We've got gain is pretty much at 0, to be honest, like up a quarter. Bass boost is off. Subsonic was up by a quarter. Low pass was set to half. So, I mean, yeah, like strangely chill settings. Nothing was maxed out or anything, which is unusual. Usually everything's maxed out. So let's see whether this thing's actually passing any audio. What happens if I turn the signal generator on? Got a 48 hertz. Yeah, got audio, got sine wave. Huh, weird. Okay, seems to work fine. I guess I'll run some more tests on it, and I'll give it a bash while it's up and running. Make sure there's no like vibration damage things. Yeah, seems to be producing nice clean sine wave, so okay. Let's have a look at the other one. Hopefully the other one's going to have an issue. The BXI. The classic curse of the live stream. When all the amplifiers that I put on the bench work fine. Although we did have the tar amps just now, so that was good. Okay, here's the VXI. I didn't actually clock the rail voltage. Did anyone clock what the rail voltage was there on the HFI? I want to see whether the rail voltage is the same. We had a 62 kilohertz switching frequency, I know that much, but I didn't clock the rail voltage. Wow, man, the bots are out in full force tonight, aren't they? Like I say, there must be people clicking on this there must be people clicking on this for it to be worth the bots coming on and being made, you know. Otherwise there wouldn't be any point to it. So, which one of y'all are clicking on the bot links? Who needs to go to horny jail? Bonk. Yeah, you can get a felony still for having too much, or if you go into an illegal state. Okay, interesting. I wonder what classified. I guess they're trying to say, like, if you've got like more than a certain amount of it, I guess they'll be saying that you're selling it, and I guess they want to tax it and stuff. So you have to probably get like a license to sell it, maybe, I guess, or something. Shit floods me with regret. Legal to have herb in Cali, Nevada, Arizona, but not in New Mexico. Some states only can certain amounts of it. Yeah, okay. Twisted here in the States. Yeah, it's a bit like the States are a bit like a continent, like Europe, right? And each state is kind of has its own laws, a bit like different countries in Europe, I guess, a little bit, with like kind of overseeing government. In Germany, it's legal, but the possession is not. Interesting. So how do you consume it without possessing it? That's interesting. So I guess if you had it in your body, then that wouldn't be illegal. But having it on your person would be. So if you smoked it, and then the law enforcement was aware that you had smoked it, or that you had it in your body, then that was fine. But if they found it on you, then it wouldn't be. Damn. You're a different man to me. I couldn't concentrate on anything. If you had an issue that caused physical pain, if you didn't chill out, we use useful in that case for slowing the brain down to the body pace. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Working as well. Damn, man, my channel is getting absolutely roasted with this stuff. I don't mind it though. It's engagement. This is actually good for my channel. This engagement. The algorithm will like it. Yeah, makes sense, yeah. In Greece, it's illegal, but when they find you, they don't arrest you, they just steal your weed, and they smoke it with the other cops. To be fair, I can imagine that being the case in Greece. How you doodle-doo, Sam? How's it going, Crafty Brett? Nice to see you on the stream, thanks for jumping on. One of my favourite streams was the one where you were speaking about who went to prison, the man who came out of prison, and then start 2 porn cards. I don't remember that one. What was that one? I might have to go back and watch that. About who went to prison. The man came out of prison. I can't remember that one. What was that about? Alright, cool. Let's see what this one's doing. This is the BXI. So I'm gonna shit my pants if this works. It'd be annoying. Okay, there we go, finally. So, as you can see, this amplifier, instead of there being Class D switching, will just have a nice big pulse up to positive rail and then nothing. So, I suspect that this amplifier has the classic Hyphonics plague, the plague of Maxonics, which is going to be the 1D transistor failure. Now, where is my little... Ah, here it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and change those 1Ds out, and that will probably fix the issue. These are really quick, nice, easy fixes. If you get these in, if you're repairing amps for customers, it's a really nice little job to do, this one. Just going to put that on there, get the old hat cam. Now let's find my 1Ds. Hopefully I have some spare 1Ds, because I get through these 1Ds like nobody's business. You do run lithium, Sam? Not yet, actually. So the van runs AGM, just because lithium wasn't really massively a thing when I was buying batteries for the van. And I don't really drive the van anymore. I'm probably going to sell it soon, to be honest. And the Proton is just an SQ car. So I might go for a single bank of lithium, just because, why not? Yeah, it's good battery stuff, I guess, but I don't really need to. So I'm just reading the live stream around my amp here. Alright, let's have a look for some 1Ds. Oh, there's some 1Ds, I think, in that bag. Pretty cool. These are 2Ds. That's nothing. 2D. 1AM. Yeah, let's go ahead and get some 1Ds out of the bag here. You can tell that I've done a lot of these Hyphonics with the 1D transistor replacements, because I have a massive reel of 2D transistors left, but no 1Ds. That's because I used them all fixing Hyphonics amps. So we want to go ahead and... It's going to be a bit dark for the camera, apologies, because of the way that the lighting and camera is here. So I'm just going to put some flux on these 1Ds on the board here. Turn on the hot air station. Get these original 1Ds out. So I haven't even, like, with this repair, I haven't even diagnosed this. Like, I haven't even gone back with the multimeter or the oscilloscope and confirmed that these 1Ds are the issue. But this is such a common issue on these boards that I'm 99% confident that just replacing these transistors will make the amplifier work again. One removed. That is 2 removed. So I'm going to go ahead and put some fresh, nice, tasty 6040 solder on these pads. There we go. Very nice, very nice. A little bit more flux. And then let's drop these new bad boys in place. There's one. And there's two. Making sure that top pin is soldered, the one that is just slightly on the other side of those transistors. Okay, great stuff. Wait for that to cool down a bit. Okay, so hopefully that's done the trick. When I sprayed my isopropyl alcohol there, the board was actually still very hot and it evaporated instantly, and that causes the transistors to cool down very rapidly, which is not necessarily such a good thing. Like thermal shock can be a bit of a problem. If a component heats up or cools down too rapidly, it can actually cause the silicon structure inside the transistor to kind of warp and fail. So you want to let stuff that you've just soldered cool down naturally. You don't want it to cool down too quickly by applying like freeze spray or like isopropyl alcohol, really, because you don't want it to suddenly cool down really quickly. Alright, so with those two replaced, that's cool enough now to probably power the board up. Let's see if that's resolved the issue or not. Ta-da! There we go. What did I tell you? We have 57 kilohertz switching frequency, and that might be because we just heated up this board. Yeah, this board is now hot, so any capacitors or diodes or anything like that will be a slightly different value than if they were at room temperature. So that's why we might have a very slight shift in the switching frequency versus the other amplifier. But yeah, that's all it was. Just those two little transistors, and this amp is ready to go. It's going to make sure that it actually produces audio as well, make sure there's no preamp faults or anything else hiding there. So let's power it up, and yeah, there we go. Nice clean audio. So job's a good one. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that. You looked at 3 amplifiers, albeit 2 were the same. And yeah, pretty decent evening in the workshop for me. Should the SMS diode 2D not work either? 1D has 200 volt, 1A has, and 2D has 200 volt, 2A is faster. So with 1D and 2D, one is a PNP, one is an NPN, so you can't substitute them. But you could probably put the 1A, I think, in place. Whichever one of the 1A or the 2A is the PNP. I think the 1D is PNP. I think the 1D is PNP and the 2D is an NPN. So yeah, you could probably substitute it for that, but you know, just stick with the original part, why not? yeah, that was a good stream, guys. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for keeping me company in the workshop this evening. Be coming back at you later this week for Rockford Fosgate Power 2500. Holy shit, man, they are on fire this evening. Thanks for all of the what do you call it, the algorithm stuff. Yeah, this issue on this amp would be sneaky. Like, if you didn't know what to look for, if you didn't know that those were the issue, you could spend a couple of hours like tracing that issue back. You probably pull all the FETs, you probably pull all the drivers, these buffer drivers in the middle which don't need replacing. So you pull all the FETs, pull all the buffer drivers, you probably pull these 3 large transistors on the driver card because they look like large things that might die, I guess. And those little inconspicuous 1D transistors on there, it'll probably take you a while to actually stumble across those as the fault, because when they fail, they don't ever tend to fail short. They never read a short on the multimeter. They either go open, which is hard to detect when you're reading them in circuit, or they just leak slightly, and it's very difficult to actually detect that with the multimeter as you're going over the board. So yeah, unless you know what to replace on these ones, it can, yeah, you'd be in for a bit of a troubleshooting evening for sure. So it's definitely handy to have that knowledge of what to replace on these ones. Next stream, yeah, I want to do the Rockford Fosgate 2500, the Power Series, which is a pretty big amplifier. It could be a headache. I get sent amplifiers from another technician who's a lot older, and he used to do amplifier repair like me, the same way that I'm doing amplifier repair now. But nowadays he's mostly doing, he's just flooded with R&D work and like other work that he's doing as a result of his experience. He's far more experienced than me. He's more of a class AB kind of guy, like, you know, repairing amps from back in the day. So but yeah, he sends me stuff that he has got time to look at. So I've got 2 amps from him actually. I've got the Rockford 2500, which he put to one side quite a long time ago with some drive circuit fault, I think. So that could be a bit of a headache, which might make for a really good stream. And I've also got a Korean half bridge 10K from him as well. That's, I can't remember what he said the issue with that one was. Maybe something in the preamp section. So a couple of amps that might be a bit of a headache, which is good for content. So maybe Wednesday this week, we could look at those. What else do I have? Yeah, I want to look at the JBL Crown GTI, the A6000 GTI. I want to look at that again at some point. That might be coming over the next couple of weeks. Yeah, a few bits and pieces, I think. Just kind of looking at my racks now. So yeah, this is all the stuff currently on the racks. BigLoudest.com, a couple of amps for sale. To be fair, there's not a huge amount of stuff. Like, usually these racks are absolutely chock-a-block full of amps. At the moment, it's not too bad. It's not massively busy. There's like a few bits, but it's not absolutely terrible. And I need it to be busy because this is what I do for a living. So I need people to keep killing amps. I need to be busy. But yeah, thanks guys for keeping me company. I'm going to log off now before we get any more bots coming on sending links. So I hope you have a great rest of the evening. Hope you have a great rest of the week if I don't see you on another live stream this week. Until then, yeah, take it easy guys. Have a good one. See you next time.